So I recently made my 150th GMod video, which is obviously quite a big milestone, but it occurred to me that I've never just sat down and talked about these videos in general, you know, despite making so many over so many years. I guess this is sort of like a stream of conscious sort of video, which is just a fancy way of saying talking out my ass, basically. But, you know, I thought I'd give some information about these videos and why I make them, how I make them and all that sort of stuff. If you're interested in how I make these videos, the production method and stuff, please skip forward to the timecode on your screen right now because I'm going to talk about that at the end. I'd rather just talk about things in general first. So I guess the big question is, why have I made 150 of these? And the simple answer is that I quite enjoy making them. I don't know why, it's just something about them is very enjoyable to do. They make me laugh a huge amount, coming up with like the jokes and the moments that happen in each individual video, and I just still get a kick out of making them, you know. Multiple times now I have tried to make finales, and then I'd always come back and do more, and I think that's just because I enjoy making them so much, and I don't have any plans to stop. Even though this was the 150th video, it's not the last one. I'm just taking a small break so I don't get burnt out too much, because I did feel a bit burnt out recently. But yeah, I intended to actually take a break after making Food Fortress the movie, and instead I continued making videos, and I think that burnt me out a little bit. Like, I still was happy to come up with ideas and stuff, but editing the videos was actually kind of tedious and just kind of a painful process, because I was so burnt out. So that's why I'm taking a bit of a break now. I will come back. I have plenty of ideas. In fact, I have a spreadsheet which lists every video I've made, all 150 of them, and at the bottom of them it lists titles for various other videos that I want to do in the future. In fact, I'll read a few of them out now for you. One of them is Anthology of Fortress 3, Movie Madness, which will be another Anthology of Fortress video, which I had fun making the last two, even if they were a lot more effort than normal. In fact, I got plans for other Anthology videos as well. I got a title here says The Curse of Invisible Sniper. I think the idea there is basically Sniper becomes invisible and shenanigans ensue. Shenanigans ensue is a very common element of these videos, to be honest. Usually I just come up with a very basic premise and then just see how things go. I'll talk more about that in the production process at the end. I got one that says Farm Fresh Fortress. Again, I'm not going to spoil any of these ideas because that kind of ruins the fun, you know. One of the fun things about these videos is that you don't really know what's going to happen. The title doesn't really explain things, and usually the titles tend to be a bit punny and jokey. But yeah, I mean, I won't go into any more of the ideas because I don't want to spoil things too much, but I got ideas that will last me at least a couple more years if I continue to make these for a while. I probably got enough ideas to easily take me to 200, even though that might take me a few years, because typically these days I make maybe one GMod video a month on average. That's just a number that works really well for me, especially since these take a bit longer these days, since I try and put a bit more effort into them. Some of my early GMod videos I look back on and I'm like, wow, you were really lazy making these, particularly like the animation and the direction. But talking about the older GMod videos, it's funny because even though I've made so many of these, I would say on average the newer ones are better. Like the batting average is better, they're usually a lot better typically. A lot of the older ones are just not very good. There's some decent ones there, but if you ever wanted to like marathon them, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get through the early ones. It's sort of like Star Trek Next Gen, where like the first season is really bad. I think the reason why the newer videos tend to be better is because I've been doing it for longer and I kind of know what works and what doesn't work, and I tend to put a bit more effort into them, and that really shows off. Because if I look at like the 10 most recent videos, so you got They Saved Pyro's Brain, that was a fun video. Gravy Fortress, that's an absolute banger. Scout Turns 30 is a little bit more mediocre, but that was really off the cuff. That was really meant to sort of a quick thing I made to sort of commemorate my own 30th birthday. Anthology of Fortress 2, Christmas of Chaos, that was an absolute banger. Anthology of Fortress was really fun. Pyro's Halloween Eat and Greet was a fun one, a bit more forgettable. Vehicular Man Sniper, absolute banger. Soldier Takes a Cake was really fun as well. Engineer's Lax Attitude was fun. Medican Sniper at the Orgasmic Games, that is a bona fide Owl Tower classic. And a Demo Man Alone was a little bit more meh, but you know, that last 10, I don't think there's a single bad video. There's a couple more forgettable ones, but I think that's what the point of trying to say, that the more you go into these videos, the later ones, you get less bad ones. Not to say there aren't any bad ones in the more sort of late past few years. There's some absolute shit ones. Obviously I made a film, Food Fortress movie. I say film, really, it's just a really long video, so 60 minutes of nonsense. I don't even consider that part of the main video count. It's such a different beast, I kind of consider it its own different thing. I'm still surprised I made a movie. I worked on that for about 8 months, which in hindsight is absolutely bonkers, and I would like to make a sequel to it. I don't know if I got it in me, and if I did make a sequel, I would have to do a lot of like forward thinking, a lot of planning, because I did a series called Scout Trek, which is like a 6-part series. The main reason why I made the Scout Trek series, well, there's 2 reasons really. The first one was to see if I could make like a lot of content quickly, because the majority of Scout Trek, the pictures and the video, I took all those in less than a week. I did it like day after day, with one day being like a break, an unintentional break. I won't go into it, it's not really that interesting anyway. And it was also to see if I can edit them quickly. And the other reason why I made Scout Trek is because I needed content when I made the movie, so that way I could have about 5-6 months worth of content while I worked on the movie, although it did take a bit longer than that to finish the movie itself. I think I worked on that for about 8 months, so I did do a couple of short videos after, just to sort of, I guess, pad for time, basically, and obviously the trailer. But yeah, I'm still gobsmacked I finished that movie, and I would like to make a sequel, although I just don't know if I got the motivation. One of the ideas I have for a sequel is called Food Fortress Journey to Space. I think the idea there is Heavy's watching television and he finds out that there's a planet that tastes like sandwiches, and obviously naturally being Heavy, he wants to go to that planet, and he basically convinces engineer to take him to that planet in a rocket ship alongside the rest of the team, and as I said before, shenanigans ensue. I think that'll be really fun. I mean, it would be very similar to the first film where it's basically just a glorified road trip film, but I think the idea there is to at least do something different. You have different environments and stuff. You would have like a different sort of antagonists, because in the first film you have like the blue team. I don't think I'd have the blue team in the second film, just to do something a bit different. And obviously being in space, you can get away with doing some very funny, silly visuals and stuff. But whether or not I make a sequel is another question, to be honest. And I can't exactly ask for money to make it, because to be honest, Valve are pretty cool about people using like their properties in fan works and stuff, but directly asking for money to produce fan works, I'm pretty sure is a big no-no. If I make a sequel, it will be off my own back, and it's 50-50 if I make one. I mean, if there's enough demand for one, I will make one. Like, if the first movie like cracks maybe 100,000 views, maybe. I think another reason why I've made so many videos is because I just love these characters, at least the sick, twisted, nasty versions of them that I've made. I think the reason why I don't particularly mind doing horrible things to these characters is because, let's be honest, in the games they are horrible. They are murderers who clearly enjoy murdering each other, so I don't feel so bad being nasty to them and putting them through the ringer every video, basically. Scout tends to get the short end of the stick, more so than any other character. I think the reason why at first, in the early years, is because I found him to be the least interesting character, or entertaining character. This whole shtick I never found very funny, so I guess it was just sort of like a fake fuck you to him, basically. Don't get me wrong, I love Scout, I love all these characters, but I never found him to be particularly entertaining. Although in recent years, I've kind of grown a bit of a soft spot for him, and that's why he doesn't get abused as much. I can't believe I just said that, gets abused, that's awful. But the other characters, I love them, I love all of them, basically. There was a period of time where Sniper was like my flat out favourite character of the bunch, and that's why there was like just a long streak of videos where he was the star of most of them. But that's not so much these days. I've tried to balance things out a bit, which is really good because they're all incredibly entertaining in their own way. Soldier is a character that I deeply regret not using more of, although I think that's just by almost like the very nature of these videos, the way I portray them all as nut jobs. So the most nuttiest of the characters, I guess Pyro is sort of tied nuttiest as well, but Soldier doesn't really stick out in that regard. But when he is like has a big presence in a video, he's just really funny. I love him. I love Soldier so much, and I regret not using him more. I tend to not overuse Heavy in videos because I think he tends to be the star of a lot of other people's GMod videos, because he commands such a presence, Heavy, and he is really funny. And he is really great, and he's really easy to use, but he tends to sort of dominate the screen if you use him. So I tend to not overuse him very often. Like, I'm looking at the most recent streak of videos, and he's not like the main character in any of them. He still has a lot to do, and he has a lot of memorable stuff to do in those videos as well. So that sort of balances things out with him. I won't talk about all the characters because I could be here all day, and I want this video to be as short as possible, but yeah, I love these characters, and I think that's obviously a big reason why I've made so many. The first attempt at doing a finale was called Goodbye Red Team. That was video number 33. It was a bad video. I think the fact that it was so bad was a reason why I came back and did more, but realistically it was just because I enjoyed making these videos in the first place. I then made a video called Teleka Sniper, which was the 50th video, and that was meant to be a finale, but then I came back and I did another 50, which is bonkers. The 100th video, 100 Fortresses, again was meant to be a finale, then I've come back and done another 50, which is just bonkers. I'm looking through a list of all the videos right now, and I'm just surprised how many I've made, and how persistent it is. Like, you'd think at some point I would just get bored of making these, but I just haven't. Thing is, if you're interested in something, you can be interested in it for years and years and years. Like, how some people like collect things. Like, I collect retro video games, I even collect Beanie Babies, and I've been collecting retro video games probably since I was like 10 years old, and I'm 30 now, and I don't show any signs of stopping. Although I don't seek them as often as I used to, although to be honest I think that's partially because the prices of things have gone up quite a lot. And I've been collecting Beanie Babies for the past 3 years now, and again I show no signs of stopping. I own more than 120 Beanie Babies, which is bonkers. I even own like a bunch of playing cards now, which I actually made a video about, which I'll be uploading in the next few days hopefully. If you're interested in that. What's that? You're not? That's because you're sensible, unlike me. But yeah, I think as long as you have an interest in something, you can indulge in it for many, many years. And I think the fact that I only do one a month helps quite a bit as well. Like, if I was doing these like one a week, I would have been absolutely burnt out by now. I would have probably stopped making them years ago. And I also think the fact that I try and have like a casual attitude to them as well helps. I won't lie, I do cut corners when making them. I talk about that more in the production, but I am well aware that the visuals for these videos tend to be a little bit lackluster for the most part. I think the goal now is to maybe aim for like 175 and then maybe go from there. Like, at this point in time, I've decided I'm not going to make a finale. I will just keep making them until I decide to stop making them. Although if I do decide to stop making them fully, I will at least make sure that last video is a decent note to end on, although it won't be like a finale per se. I mean, I guess it'd be more like an open-ended finale, whereas like, I may come back and do more, but I may not either. And I think there's enough content at this point to enjoy yourself, even if I did decide to stop making them in the future. 150 videos plus a movie, that's pretty good. That's more than what most people can say. Most of the big Gmodders have stopped making videos for the most part. Like, Das Bullshit, the guy who did the Gmod Idiot Box, which was a huge inspiration for these videos. He doesn't make stuff anymore. He hasn't uploaded for years. Rubberfruit hasn't uploaded anything for many years. Another Gmodders as well, ones I can't even remember the names of. Those people are obviously hugely inspirational to me, and it's sad to see them not make stuff anymore. And that's fair enough. They made stuff for years. They made millions of people happy, including myself. And if they don't want to make stuff anymore, that's absolutely fine. I just wish they said goodbye. You know, like, if you're going to stop making stuff, that's completely your choice. You don't owe anybody anything, unless you've been paid to do stuff, of course, that's different. But at the very least, I think you should do is say, hey, I'm not doing this stuff anymore, it doesn't interest me, it doesn't entertain me anymore. Thank you for enjoying it, I'll keep the YouTube channel up, take care, you know, say goodbye basically. I remember when, it's not really relevant to Gmod, but I remember when Let's Play stopped making videos for like the longest time. Somebody left a comment on one of the videos and it said, it's not the fact that you went, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but they said, it's not the fact that you went, it's the fact that you didn't say goodbye. And I think that's always the most disappointing thing when people stop making stuff, they don't say goodbye. Like, or in Let's Play's case, they did actually come forward and say, hey, we're not going to make more content on here, this channel, so fair enough, fair play to them, but I wish these other Gmodders said goodbye. And if I did stop making videos myself, I would try and do that. I wouldn't just disappear randomly. I know that I'm nowhere near as big as these people, these videos. I'm happy when one of these videos cracks 1,000 views. These people are getting millions of views or hundreds of thousands. You know, even the movie hasn't cracked 100,000 views yet. Although I do anticipate at some point it will. But I know that compared to most Gmodders, I am small peanuts in comparison. But I clearly have a little bit of an audience, and I'm happy to still make these videos despite the fact that Gmod videos like this are incredibly dated and quite passé at this point. I started making them around the time that the big boys stopped making them, it seems. But I'm happy to continue the tradition, even though I'm doing it mainly for myself, to be honest, because I enjoy making them. But I'm glad to know that there are a substantial amount of people that enjoy watching them. I also love kind of like shocking people, because this year roughly this year, I started to like really up the ante for like the shocking content in these videos. Like I started using like the nude models and stuff, which at first it was super awkward to use. Like I remember when the first time I used it, I was like, oh my god, I was like turning the camera away from like the nude models. I was like, this is awful. And you know, to be clear, you know, if you see a nude model in one of my recent videos, behind that like black box, there is nudity, real nudity. I might exaggerate it a little bit, but it is real, and I have to endure that when I'm recording and editing. You're the lucky ones not having to see the full Monty per se, because I find it really funny, to be honest. Like I know that's sick, but I do find it very funny. And not to say that shock humour is the best humour or inherently good. I think it's the way that you do it. When I say shock humour, I mean visuals that are shocking rather than just being offensive for the sake of it. Like being bigoted or like racist or sexist, no, that's not funny, at least in my opinion. It's more like shocking visuals, like the characters just inexplicitly being naked or nutting on each other. I can't believe how many times these characters have ejaculated at this point. It's actually pretty horrendous. In my opinion, the best humour is the unexpected. You know, an unexpected punchline, an unexpected moment. If you can see a joke coming, no pun intended, it's not funny. It's not funny because you expect it, you know what's going to happen. But if you don't know the punchline, you don't know what's going to happen, it's a lot funnier. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that you can just do any old shit and expect it to be funny. You know, I can't just go, chocolate waffles, oh, you didn't expect me to say that, therefore it's funny. No, it's not funny. It's fucking lame. You know, that's why lol so random humour doesn't work so much, in my opinion. Like, to be honest, talking about GMod videos of the past, I was never a fan of those ones where it was just so random and incomprehensible, where you just didn't know what was going on. I never liked those ones, and I never thought they were funny. I like the ones that were a little bit more down to earth, where you could comprehend it. Like, they still had random moments in them, but because they weren't just completely off the wall, they were still funny. I like to employ, when it comes to my videos, I like to employ something that I call comprehensive randomness, where basically, as random as things can get, and silly and stupid, you can still comprehend what's going on. My videos are weird, but you can tell what's going on for the most part. It's comprehensive, despite being random, hence comprehensive randomness, and that's something that I've been doing since day one, and I feel like that's one of the most consistent things of these videos. You can tell what's going on. I do fail sometimes I get a little bit too silly, or sometimes something isn't directed well enough to get a point across, but that's something I'm particularly proud of. I think I've managed to develop a style which I'm really happy with. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough about just random things. Let's talk about how I actually make these videos. I won't be going into super detail because, to be honest, there's not a humongous amount to talk about. I've got myself into a routine which is really good for the way I like making these videos. So when I started making these videos all those years ago, I actually scripted them. It sounds ridiculous, but I actually, honest to God, scripted them. It wasn't like a really formal script, it really was just like a list of bullet points, like character says this line, character does this action, and so on and so forth. And I did that for the first few videos. I couldn't tell you at what point I stopped. It was very soon. I know I did it for Rad Fortress, which is the first video, and the next maybe 2 or 3, but at a certain point I stopped making them like that because I didn't like the sort of paint by numbers method of doing it. It was very boring. It was like, okay, now I have to do this shot, now I have to do this shot, now I have to animate this, now I have to do that. I didn't like it. It was very boring. So it wasn't long until I sort of scrapped that method and started improvising them, and I've been doing that ever since. You know, when I first started improvising these videos, they were really rough around the edges. They weren't very good, to be honest. It took me a while to sort of get into that mindset and develop those skills. Not to say that I'm a skilled person, but it may not work for everybody. Some people probably do work better if they plan everything, but it didn't work for me. I didn't particularly enjoy it. Let me explain what I mean by improv regarding these videos. When I say improv, I also mean improvise. The majority of these videos I will make up on the spot. I will, generally speaking, come up with like a very basic premise. Let's use one video as an example. Engineer the Medic. I love that video. It's one of my favourites. A video that I'm particularly fond of. The very basic idea of that video was, what if one character took over the role of another character? Not the most unique concept. In fact, it was inspired, funnily enough, by an episode of The Simpsons called Homer the Smithers. In that episode, Homer takes over Smithers' job temporarily. And to be honest, I don't know why I chose Engineer and Medic. Maybe it was inspired by the fact that obviously Engineer in the game can perform a medical wall with the dispenser, so it kind of felt a bit fitting. I don't remember at this point. I've made so many, I don't remember everything, to be honest. Pretty much everything in that video was improvised. I didn't even know what was going to happen to Medic. Was he just going to be on holiday? Was he going to die? Was he going to get incapacitated in some way? I didn't know, because I make up pretty much all of it on the spot. I might have a few jokes in mind, a few moments, but almost all of it, like 90%, 95% is improvised. And that is part of the fun to me, just coming up with the jokes, making myself laugh. So all the moments that happened in that video, pretty much the vast majority of them, I made up as I went along. You know, at no point did I think, oh, at one point, Heavy is going to become pregnant with Medic and give birth to him. That was something that I made up, and something that made me laugh, based on how awful it is, because it's just disgusting. I didn't know how the video was going to end. I didn't know how it was going to start. I didn't know what was going to be in the middle. It is just completely, well, mostly improvised. I have a basic idea, maybe a couple jokes and moments in mind, and I just see what happens. I see how the wind takes me. And for the most part, it tends to work out pretty well. You know, that ended up being a really fun video with some really funny moments in it, and I'm really glad. Here's a fun fact about that video. It's not relevant to the discussion, but I thought I'd bring it up because I'm never going to bring it up again. Engineer the Medic was the only video that I made in 2 places. I'm originally from Bristol, and I lived there for many, many years. The first scene in the video was like all the screenshots and the footage was taken in Bristol. Then I took a break, obviously to pack away all my stuff before I moved to Weymouth, and the rest of the video was actually made in Weymouth, which is where I live now. But yeah, in terms of the Garry's Mod portion of the video, there's not really much more to talk about. Obviously, if you watched any of these videos, you know that the direction tends to be very basic and flat, and the animation is very simple. The reality is, the Garry's Mod portion is probably my least favourite thing to do. I love coming up with ideas and I love doing the editing, but I'm just not a big fan of doing the animation. That's why I tend to keep things simple, that I don't have to spend too much time. On an average video, I could probably get all the visuals and stuff done in about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on some occasions, sometimes even less, actually, because it's not what I make these videos for. So I openly admit the fact that the visuals can be quite lazy and basic, but I just don't particularly enjoy that portion of it. I don't dislike it, to be clear. Obviously, if I disliked it, I wouldn't do it. I will at least try and make sure the direction is, you know, strong, and there are some little bits of visual flair now and then, just to sort of keep things interesting. But I will say one thing, I'm generally not a big fan of those videos that go absolutely bonkers with the direction, having like incredibly ridiculous movements and stuff for the characters. I don't particularly like that either, so that is a factor as well. But I won't lie, a big part of it is just my own motivation and laziness. At this point, the next step is editing the video, and this is the longest portion. You know, coming up with the ideas is very short. Garry's Mod, 2-3 hours on average. Editing these days, it can take a couple of days. Obviously not consistent work, I will just dip in now and then to edit it, but it is the longest portion by far. Obviously the first step is I put all the screenshots in the video in the timeline in chronological order, and then I work on it in chronological order. I go from the left, go to the right, get all the animation timed right, all the visuals timed right, put the sound effects, the voices, the music, everything in there, and I will just go through it step by step to finish it. It's not really much to talk about in the editing because I just power through it. I just make sure everything is as good as it can possibly be, adding some visual flair if I feel like it's necessary. These days I am so particular about the editing. Editing in the early videos is really rough. There's audio clipping, the timing is bad in a lot of places. These days I am so particular. I'm actually kind of proud of the editing because I think that does a lot of the heavy lifting in these videos. Sure, the animation and stuff is kind of naff and bland, but the editing is incredibly sharp these days and I'm quite proud of it. I'm so particular about the timing. I will watch like a little clip again and again and again until I'm happy with the timing. I'm just so particular about the flow of these videos these days. That's why if you watch one of the most recent videos and you watch one of the old ones, it is night and day in a lot of cases. The editing is so much tighter now. I'm actually kind of proud of it. It's funny to think how much time I spent editing something like Rad Fortress, and now if I go back and watch that, I'm like, okay, the editing here is bad, this is off, there's audio clipping here, pacing here is bad. These days it's so much better. But one of the reasons why I'm taking a break is because the editing has really burnt me out. Like, I look at the most recent video, it took me about a week to edit that. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about the actual effort to edit it took a week. It took me a week to have enough motivation to work on it a little bit every day, despite the fact that it was an enjoyable process and had a lot of laughs. Now, I talked about improv, obviously, previously. Some videos do have a bit more planning put into them. I can't name any in the top of my head. but there are some odd videos where there's basically no planning at all. For example, Soldier Takes the Cake, fun short little video. I literally went to GMod that day with no ideas. The only idea I had per se was I want Soldier to be the main character. That was it. I literally went to GMod that day, went into a map, not even the map I used in the video to be clear, just a random map, and I was like, okay, let's figure out something to do. And eventually, after a little bit of thinking, I was like, well, what if Soldier still scouts pancakes? That could be funny, and then we could see what happens after that. Then I realised I didn't like the map I was on, so I switched maps, basically. So I'm like, okay, he can still scout pancakes, and I'm doing some animation, I'm doing some video. What happens next? Well, maybe he can steal someone else's food. What if he steals, like, a cheesecake? Because in the past, I've had Soldier fuck a cheesecake. That's not a joke, he has literally fucked a cheesecake. So is the blue sniper. Okay, fair enough, I have Pyro with a cheesecake, Deadman stood next to them, why not? And you can just see at this point, it's just piecing stuff together, trying to find something that is comprehensible and comprehensive. And at that point, I'm just like adding extra jokes, adding extra moments. I've got Medic at the top of the tower for some reason, I don't know why, just thought it'd be funny. You have Engineer, you know, eating people again, because he's a sick fuck. I'm like, wait a minute, pancakes, cheesecake, he can take another cake, and I can call it Soldier Takes the Cake. And at that point, I've got an idea basically, a very rough idea. So I've gone from nothing to something, and obviously at that point I'm adding in extra moments, extra characters, trying to structure it as I go along, and you end up with a video which literally started from nothing. You know, because typically these videos I will have a very rough idea of what I want to do. It might change as I go along, but I will have an idea. That was one of those times where I had nothing. It goes to show you that you can make something from nothing. You know, there was technically a kernel of an idea there, Soldier being the main character, but that was it. And that was one of the most fun videos of that year, to be honest. Disgusting, because he ends up fucking that cheesecake and nutting on Heavy's fish cake. I can't believe I just said that, but these videos have got that insane. It's really fun. In fact, if you go back to the 150th video, I'm probably going to stop talking soon, don't worry. They savoured Pyro's brain. I had so many ideas for that video. The idea I landed on, I ended up abandoning it anyway. I had an idea called 30 medics or less, and the idea was the red team were expecting a pizza delivery, it was going to be late, Medic was going to get pissed off and he was going to start cannibalising other members of the team, and that was going to cause like this domino effect of cannibalism. And if you watch that video, you know Medic does eat Pyro, but it ends there, and then the rest of the video was improvised over the course of like a couple of days, because I did that in a couple of shoots, basically. So even if I do have a plan, sometimes I just abandon it anyway, and I just do whatever I feel like would be funny. Editing, after I do all the editing, I've got off topic there a little bit, I apologise, but after I do the editing, it's obviously just, I would watch it, make sure the video is fine, make sure there's no technical errors, make sure the pacing is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. I'll upload it to YouTube, I'll make a thumbnail, do all the metadata, all that boring stuff, then I'll publish it. I will watch it once just to make sure like it works fine. YouTube can be a little bit fussy sometimes it won't put the ending elements on, because obviously I have an end state and all that sort of business. I want to make sure that the end state elements work. But yeah, at that point I just publish it and just hope to God that people like it. Because I don't get any feedback as I make these videos. Getting feedback is really useful for making stuff, but I think you can almost be like, you don't want to bend over backwards for people. These videos are meant to be for mostly my enjoyment, and the fact that anybody else likes them is a miracle. But also I'm not there to piss people off or make people upset. I've made people upset in the past with some of my stuff. I used to be a little bit more douchey in the past, I'm a lot more chill these days. I want to entertain people, but I also want to entertain myself, so it's the right balancing act really, to be honest. Anyway, I've talked long enough at this point that my voice is actually getting sore. I hope this video's been entertaining and informative to the few people that will watch the whole thing. Hopefully you've learned a few things about these videos and maybe learned some stuff that you might want to implement in your own content. As I said, the latest video is not the last one, it's simply a milestone. I intend to come back and do more in a month or so. I might take a little bit longer if I feel like it. I will be making some more videos in the meantime. I'll be doing some more food reviews, some more random videos. I want to get back into doing Let's Plays. But GMod videos, I have no plans to stop making them. And if you enjoy them, I hope you enjoy the future ones I make. In fact, I've even got the next one kind of planned already. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the future content, and take care, and have a good day.